You asked, we're going to answer. This is Rookie Me Central's Q&A pre-draft for the 2021 AFL Draft. The last day or so, we've sent out some questions or asking you for some questions about perhaps some of the prospects that you want to know more about. I'm Peter Williams, Chief Editor, and I'm joined once again by AFL Draft Editor Michael Alvaro. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure as always, Pete. Pretty keen to get stuck into these questions. So let's do it.
Absolutely. So we did have to make a cutoff with some of the questions. So do note that for the questions that don't get asked, we will be doing a countdown in the lead up to the AFL Draft on Wednesday. So we'll just go through some of the ones we definitely had. I'll throw it to Michael to answer, and we'll try and get through as many as we can. So Michael, we'll start off with the first question, which is Tyler Sonsie the best kick on both sides in the draft?
If you're using that stipulation on both sides, I think he definitely is. Very classy player. Uses the ball left, right foot, doesn't really discriminate. So I would say that that's a true statement. But if we're looking at the best kicks in the draft, regardless, probably Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller, he's right up there, and Zach Taylor would be my two.
Absolutely. Very effective kicks. So the next question, do you think that Leaker can slide down to North's pick 42?
No. Simple answer. I think he'll probably go 20s or 30s. There's a few clubs sort of knocking around for a key defender. He's quite raw, but everyone's seen his potential. You just look at his highlights package. So, I think he'd be struggling to get there.
Speaking of highlights packages, the next question is probably related to one of the most, athletic players we can find in the draft in MacAndrews. So the question comes in from a Melbourne supporter. Is there a way for Melbourne to steal MacAndrew?
No, I wouldn't have thought so, unfortunately, unless they get pretty creative and trade right up in the first round into the top 10 and take them or take him themselves. There's absolutely no chance. So I think they're resigned to that. They put a bit of work into him, obviously, through the NGA program, but he's going to belong to another side, unfortunately, come draft time.
And this is a question we might have answered once or twice throughout the year. Who is the best player in this year's draft?
It's probably the best time to plug our power rankings because that's where you can find it. Personally, I've got Jason Horne-Francis, number one. Pretty hard to deny him after the season he had. Nick Dacos had been in the number one slot a couple times this year, and had he played more, might have remained there. But we'll never really know. Come draft time, it'll be Jason Horne-Francis anyway. He'll be number one pick, and
Yep, not long now to hear that pick one read out. So just give us a rundown into Marcus Windhager as a player.
Yeah, we just had Mitch Owens in beforehand earlier today. Obviously another Saints NGA, and Marcus Windhager, a bit of a similar play, is a shorter midfielder forward, but has that sort of same versatility, very explosive kind of midfielder forward. Really clean hands, bit of a basketball background, which we hear a lot. So definitely an athletic type, one with a lot of upside. Came off a pretty serious knee injury. Now he's got a back injury, so in the wars a little bit. But he'll be a sort of second, third round prospect.
Yeah, a little bit higher in the draft. A question came in, who could be a first round bolter on that draft night?
There's a few. I like Mitch Nevitt. I had him around, I think, number 23 in the power rankings. I think there's a couple clubs who might be in for him. Sydney might be one there. Jesse Motlop is one who might get into that first round as well. North Melbourne probably looking for a small forward, so he might be an option. The other one was Mitch Owens. I don't think GWS will pick him up. That would have been probably the main interest. And then there's a couple of clubs, maybe Melbourne, towards the back end of that first round that could be interested. But yeah, those three names I'd say could get into that first round.
So we've got a question about a few different academy and father-son prospects where they might come in. So we'll start off with the first one, GWS Josh Fay. Where do you sort of see his bid potentially coming in?
His range is probably in the 20s. So second round, early second round. And I think those Richmond picks, they've got 3 consecutive. They'd be pretty shrewd to just land a bid there, and GWS will match pretty quickly.
And the next father-son, Josh Woden, obviously linked to Melbourne. Where do you sort of see that bid potentially coming in?
Probably 35 plus. I see him getting a bid in the national draft. I think a few clubs will value his versatility. He's improved a lot. Obviously, the son of Shane, so he'll go to Melbourne, but probably 35 plus.
And the other father-son that's been talked up quite a bit outside those top couple in Jace Burgoyne, Port Adelaide, obviously. Where do you sort of see his bid coming in?
Yeah, very highly touted junior. He's played a lot of good under-18s footy. Even cracked the league grade this year with Port, so it's good to see him in the prison bar jumper. But I'd see him just a bit later than Woden, probably 40 plus, with potential to even slide through as a rookie, which would be ideal for Port. But see how we go.
Now, I alluded to a couple of the father-sons that are right up the top of the order. Obviously, we've heard a lot about Nick Dacos and Sam Darcy, but potentially we've seen in past years where there has been a high bid that clubs want to trade back into this year's draft using next year's picks. So do you think that potentially the Magpies or Bulldogs might want to do that to get another player potentially in that first round or before when their next pick would be?
Yeah, well, Bulldogs have put their pick 23 on the table, obviously with that Darcy bid coming in. But then after that, both clubs could probably have enough flexibility to get back into the second or third round of this draft. A very even range, so could get some good value there and, pick up a bargain.
And in that sort of, I guess, second round onwards or the sort of later pick, who do you sort of think that North will pick with their second selection in the draft?
Yeah, it's a really good pick to have. I think that sort of late teens, early 20s, that sort of range, you can get an absolute bargain. So Darcy Wilmot's one who might interest them, give them a bit of run. Chesser, Tom Brown, they're another couple that have that drive, a lot of athleticism, and obviously Wilmot off the top there, he is a teammate of Jackson Archer, who they're getting as a father-son. So good connection there. Other than that, they might look for a small forward. So Sam Butler's probably one of the prime candidates there, and Jesse Motlop as well, who we mentioned before.
And we were talking about bolters earlier. Now we're going to talk about perhaps the biggest sleepers in the draft and who perhaps might fall down the order a little bit.
Yeah, well, you can sort of start pretty early with this category. So Neil Erasmus is one who's probably a top 10 talent, but he might end up sliding out of that range. Guys throughout the year, a lot of Victorians, so Sonzi, Chesser, Sin, they're guys who have sort of slid out of that top 10 range. And then you look at someone like Matt Roberts, who's probably the biggest slider of the whole lot. He, was touted as a first rounder, very highly rated player. It's sort of fallen out of that range, more like a second or third rounder now. So, he's one, and Ned Long as well. I'd probably throw in there. We'll see how he goes. He's probably a late to rookie option.
Yeah, and just finally, who do you think Gold Coast will pick with their first selection?
Yeah, probably two players in contention there for me. If they don't get signed with that Dacos bid, if GWS overlook that, then probably Josh Gibcus or Finn Callaghan.
Absolutely. So that pretty much wraps up the questions we've got so far. So thanks very much for joining me today, Michael.
No, pleasure as always, mate.
And make sure you're following us at Rookie Me Central on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. We'll have plenty more content in the lead up to the AFL draft, which will be tomorrow night. Make sure you're checking it out. We're across both nights. Plenty of reaction videos as well as we go. So make sure you're following us as well as on the website. So be sure to check us out. That's all for now.